It's me, Bussy, and welcome back to my channel. Today we've got some tea and hot gossip to discuss. And then we'll be taking a deep dive into the truth behind Jeffrey Bowyer-Chapman's experience on Canada's Drag Race. As it turns out, what you see isn't always the truth. Now, let's put on our coats and head north. But first, a quick message from today's video sponsor, Surfshark, an award-winning virtual private network. Surfshark can be used to protect your online identity, get better deals when shopping online, and my personal favorite use, to watch geo-restricted content on Netflix. For example, this is what the US Netflix looks like when you search for RuPaul's Drag Race. It's blank. But with Surfshark, I can set my location to anywhere in the world and access that country's Netflix library. So with just one click, I'm in Argentina, and I have access to all 13 seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race. Hi, Pork Chop! And maybe later today I'll surf on over to India to catch up on Friends. Anything's possible. The other thing I love about Surfshark is they encrypt all of my internet activity so that nobody can track or steal my data. Not even my ISP. And yes, Surfshark works on your iPhone, Android, Mac, and PC with unlimited device login. And best of all, they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk in just trying it out. And they've partnered with me to bring you an extra hot deal. When you click the link in the description of this video and use code Bussy at checkout, you'll get Surfshark for 83% off and 3 extra months for free. Thanks, Surfshark. Now, let's get back to it. About a year ago now, Canada's Drag Race Season 1 concluded and crowned Priyanka as its first winner, but not without controversy. While the season itself went on to become the best performing Canadian and Crave network show the platform had ever aired, the season's judging was criticized online by almost everyone, including myself in a video I published titled Judging the Judges on Canada's Drag Race, which went on to become one of my channel's most viewed videos, and compilation videos containing clips of the show's bad judging, like this one titled Canada's Drag Race Judges Being Rude and Annoying by Offensive Tea, have racked up hundreds of thousands of views. It's clear an appetite for an explanation behind the actions of the panel was there, but we never got it. As a quick refresher, let's revisit some of those moments. In episode 1, Jimbo's rainbow zipper dress and Starzy's immaculately constructed red puffer coat dress, which by the way won top toot from Fashion Photo Review, were completely overlooked for Rita Vega's blue t-shirt dress, put it nicely. And the bottom 2 from that episode were critiqued so harshly by the entire panel, I might add, that Juicebox suffered a panic attack on stage. And they aired it. And during episode 4, the Recycled Materials Group Challenge, Brooke Lynn told Ilona that she looks like something she should hang in her backyard and beat with a stick. And JBC critiqued Jimbo's paper look, which was largely regarded by the fanbase as the best look on the stage, and also won top toot by Fashion Photo Review, saying, everyone gets the same amount of time, use it better, maybe. And then in episode 6, JBC tells Ilona that her mug is gorgeous, but her bootay could have used some full coverage foundation. Brooke Lynn concurs. And then JBC says to Jimbo, welcome to the competition, honey, which felt condescending from a viewer's perspective, considering that Jimbo had literally just won the Snatch Game the prior episode. And then during episode 7, JBC tells Jimbo that she is not glamorous at all. And then behind the scenes, JBC later says her look is Turd City. You get the point. The judges said a lot of strange and often harsh things, but in particular, the show seemed to focus on the very specific narrative of JBC versus the fan favorite, Jimbo. In fact, viewers reacted so negatively to the way they showed JBC critiquing Jimbo that they went as far as to create a change.org petition to have him removed from the show, which was signed by over 2,600 people. JBC received so much hate online that he later left Twitter and had to limit all of his comments on his Instagram posts. And strangely, we never heard anything from him about the situation. The season ended and fans were mostly left confused. I know I was. Why was the judging so off? What did the judges think of how they were portrayed? And what did the queens think of what the judges had said throughout the season? Interviews giving us some insight to what transpired during recording began to trickle in over the next couple of months. In early August, after Ilona's Bootay Foundation critique sparked outrage and discussion about body positivity online, Brooke Lynn posted a video to Twitter apologizing for and clarifying their critiques.
This was not meant as body shaming whatsoever. It was just from where we were sitting on the judges panel, we could see red bumps and stuff that come from shaving that we all get. We have no problem with the size, the shape of Ilona's bum. She has a beautiful, beautiful body, and it was not meant in that way at all. I'm sorry for the misunderstanding, and I understand that you probably couldn't see that on your TV, but that's where our critique was coming from.
And Ilona said this in an interview with Canada ET after her elimination about a week or two later.
In the moment, I didn't really take that very seriously. Seeing the kind of Twitterverse come together and discuss this as a topic opened my eyes. For me, it's like we're all people, we're all learning. If anything, now they know. Season 2, be a little nicer. Maybe don't comment on people's bodies necessarily as much. I think 2020, we're moving away from that now.
But at this point, things were really heating up online. Ilona revealed that she had an S-word attempt after receiving hateful messages from fans, and this was around the point that Jeffrey had left Twitter and limited his Instagram. Crave, the network the show was airing on, published this statement. There is no place for hate in the Canada's Drag Race community or anywhere. Our show encourages inclusivity and acceptance of all people, and we hope that viewers who haven't shared in that spirit will respect that message. And then in September of 2020, Jimbo discusses her time on Drag Race with Joseph Shepard, who is a YouTuber known for doing the Drag Race Queen Exposed series. She says this regarding the critiques she received from the judges.
I think that they wanted to show, that they meant business, that we're not all so nicey up here in Canada. Unfortunately, it's sometimes funnier to be a little bit mean or cutting than it is to be nice. I think a lot of the jokes ended up being, at our expense and or coming across as harsh. And, it didn't really seem constructive a lot of the time. It just seemed like making fun of people doing their art. There was a lot of opportunities to see us and see our drag and to celebrate what we were doing that were missed. And I hope that they change that going forward.
And then out of what felt like nowhere, we finally heard from Jeffrey Bowyer-Chapman. In October, he published an interview/conversation with Jimbo on his podcast, Conversations with Others. Their conversation is mostly focused around Jimbo, talking about her life, drag character, and plans for the future. But they do finally touch on some of the more controversial moments from Canada's Drag Race at the 48-minute mark. Jeffrey discusses the welcome to the competition, honey critique that I mentioned earlier, saying this.
It was the moment when I said, welcome to the competition, Jimbo, and then it was edited out, the follow-up of me saying, I feel like we're seeing the fully formed version of you. I feel like you have now brought all of yourself to the table. It was such a cool thing to see.
And then around the 51-minute mark, they briefly discussed the not glamorous at all critique.
The glamorous episode, was it that? The pageant episode. The most glamorous gown I've ever seen in my entire psychological life. People went crazy. People think that we hate each other or that I hate you or vice versa or whatever it is, but it's just television, kids. We're all there. We're all under contract. We can only have so much time. I didn't play favorites with anybody, but in my heart of hearts, just as a fan of drag, I had my favorites, and you were one of my favorites. I mean, literally from the moment that you walked into the workroom.
And then near the end of the podcast, they affirm their love for each other and that they have a positive relationship.
I appreciate you so much. I truly can't even begin to express how much I adore you, how much respect I have for you, how deeply grateful I am for your friendship and your love and support. I just want to let you know I love you, and I think you're doing a great job.
Oh my God, Jeffrey, I love you.
Honey.
You're so beautiful and so kind and so sweet. I loved you ever since the moment I met you.
But I was kind of shocked they didn't go into more detail about all those controversial moments. I mean, there was plenty to talk about. And I didn't understand it at the time, but the part in that podcast where he mentions the contract was actually telling us everything that we needed to know. But more on that later. Even though they didn't hash everything out as I had wanted them to a year ago, it was still important to me to hear that he had love for Jimbo and Jimbo had love for him. But where was the promotion of this positive, happy conversation between these two characters by World of Wonder, Crave, and Canada's Drag Race as a franchise? In later interviews with people like Brooke simply came too late or weren't enough to change the fans' opinions. In November 2020, Brooke Lynn did an interview with Joseph Shepard. And in that interview, Joseph brings up that the fans were not fans of the critiques the judges gave to the contestants. Brooke Lynn says this.
I mean, some of these children watching this, first of all, children, thinking we were too harsh. Mama, trust me, we were lovely. We have a short amount of time to squeeze everything into, so a lot of things get cut. I know I personally said a lot of positive things to the girls, a lot of encouraging things. It wasn't all negative. I can't control what actually gets shown. But I mean, I was there to judge and give my opinion and do these girls the courtesy of telling them exactly what I thought in hopes of helping them a little bit. And when you sign up for the competition, you sign up to be judged by the people who are there to judge you. A lot of people just don't know how to take criticism, maybe. And a lot of people want to rally behind their faves, which I get and which I love. Like, there's no fan base like the Drag Race fan base. Like, if they love you, and they support you, and they go hard for you. But the downside of that is if you cross the girl they love or whatever, then you're the worst person ever, and then they come for you really hard. And that's unfortunate, I think. When I say I hate your outfit, or I don't like your outfit, or I don't like this, I'm not saying you are a terrible person. Literally saying I don't like what you're wearing right now, and that's okay because I'm allowed to say that because that's my job here.
And specifically regarding JBC, Brooke Lynn says this.
There was like a change.org position I saw, and I was like, that's for like bringing justice for Breonna Taylor and all of these, and now you're using it to get like, a black man taken out of his job. And there is definitely racism within the Drag Race fandom, and I just thought it really brought it to life, and people were just being so mean and evil. You're allowed to not like a judge or not agree with somebody. What I don't believe you are allowed to do is to then at that person or DM that person or go on that person's social media and tell them how horrible you think they are. So I really, really felt for him. But I mean, Jeffrey handled things with a lot of grace and a lot of dignity and a lot of poise, as he always does.
And they also speak a bit on Jimbo, to which she says,
but Jimbo is a perfect example of the fact that you don't have to win the show to win the show. So when it came down to the final week he went home, I just remember, I don't believe his makeup was great, and then it came down to that lip sync, and I just felt like Rita gave it so much more than Jimbo in the lip sync. Doesn't mean they're a terrible person. Jimbo is so unique and so iconic, and he was such a huge reason why that first season was such a success. And I mean, I would not be surprised even a little bit if we saw him on All Stars in the future and stuff like that. So this is not the end of the ride for Jimbo, and losing is the new winning.
But overall, this interview, to me, felt a little strange. We heard Brooke Lynn defending the panel as being lovely and shaking off criticism as being from children. Don't get me wrong, she made some great points about bullying, and I'm happy that she brought up the cyberbullying and racism that JBC experienced. But we had heard at this point from JBC, Ilona, Brooke Lynn, and Jimbo, all the major players in the drama that was proliferate through the fan base. Yet we were no closer to understanding the truth about what really happened. Everyone just skirted around the issue, and the franchise pretty much ignored the problems. And this is where the contract, I think, comes back into play. A year ago, I really didn't know anything about the Drag Race contract or the NDA that all the contestants and apparently judges sign. But in retrospect, the problem is clear. Everyone was avoiding talking about the actual problems and sharing their experience about what happened because they contractually couldn't. Allegedly. We'll call it a theory. And some proof to this theory started to appear at the beginning of this month, September of 2021. On the 2nd, Anastarzia tweeted this. Canada's Drag Race Season 1 Queen's contracts ends tomorrow, and the reunion airs Monday. With that said, I'm not sorry for an effing thing. On the 3rd, Kiara tweeted, our CDR contract ended today. Sue me. Someone involved in production asked Rita during COVID if Quebec cases were higher because we didn't speak English, so maybe we couldn't get all the information. What world do you live in, and how shallow was that? Another tweet from Kiara read, I'm mostly relieved that we don't need permission for them to make other TV shows or whatever. And Ilona tweeted a series of things going into great detail about how the producers told her not to discuss her trans identity while on the show, and that she felt like she ended up a discarded asset. And on top of that, wasn't able to provide for herself for the past year because her primary line of work was not in line with, as she described, the morals of the brand. And then the big one dropped. On September 16th, Jeffrey Bowyer-Chapman broke his silence in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter. Reflecting on his time recording Canada's Drag Race, JBC says, there are many instances where, looking back, I should have paid attention to my intuition and spoken up, and I didn't. There really was no black talent, JBC says. We're walking onto a set of Canada's Drag Race day one, and the showrunner is telling me how diverse the crew was. I didn't see one black person. And from day one in the workroom, he says that a white gay male showrunner pulled me aside right before I was to meet the queens for the first time and told me I was the man candy that was there for the queens to drool over. He says the same showrunner later explained to him that he was the sassy one on the panel. Jeffrey explains that being told that from a white person ever as a black person, it's like a dog whistle. It's like what is said of black women and of black queer men, meaning that you're the hot-headed, opinionated one who's gonna tell it like it is and not give a shit about what anybody has to say. And that's not who I am. Furthermore, that we, the judges, would have no personal relationships or dialogue or contact with the queens whatsoever other than when we were filming. And when he met the contestants, he explained that his walls went up immediately. I realized there were different expectations being put on me that were not being placed on the rest of the cast, and nobody was going to protect me, he says. He, as well as Heights and Mackenzie, were outfitted with earpieces during tapings, through which producers delivered prompts, clarifying that they don't do that in the US versions. He also said, even if we didn't have anything negative to say, you had to come up with something negative. And to pile on top of all of this, JBC says that in post-production, the showrunner handed him a list of pre-written negative critiques that he had to recite into a microphone. Concerning this, Jeffrey says, very naively, I thought, they must just be doing this because they gave me the bubblegum edit, because there was endless footage of me connecting with the queens and being loving and kind and guiding them. So to reveal so far, JBC says that there was no black talent on the production team. He was told to be the Sassy Man Candy. He was to have no relationship with the queens when the cameras weren't rolling. Him and the other judges were given prompts via an earpiece. He always had to give a negative critique, and he had to go into the studio after production and recite a list of pre-written negative critiques. That is insane. On the other side of this, The Hollywood Reporter did get an interview from someone who they say is a source close to production. They counter that Jeffrey Bowyer-Chapman signed off on the first 3 episodes before airing, and that the ADR session was, quote, not a list of negative comments. I will say, it is interesting that they specifically clarify that he signed off on the first 3 episodes, but they say nothing about him approving the rest of them, which is important considering the most memeable and harshest shown critiques, I think, were in episodes 4, 6, and 7. THR also got a quote from Crave on the situation, who says, Jeffrey is a gifted talent whose energy, skills, and passion unquestionably contributed to the success of the inaugural season of Canada's Drag Race on Crave. He will always be considered part of the Canada's Drag Race family. I read this and I was like, duh, y'all milked him for drama and views. Of course he was part of the success. Drama equals views. Just look on YouTube. And concerning those episode approvals, JBC immediately called the producers and asked if the tone would continue for the rest of the series. And, quote, they guaranteed us that no, it wouldn't, and that they were just finding their way for the first episode and what have you. So I let it go. We also learned in this article that it was Rupaul who suggested to Jeffrey that he leave Twitter, suggesting that you have to put up walls to protect yourself from being exposed to negative energy. JBC also says in this article that Todrick Hall reached out, saying he talked about the hate he received from gay white men. Quote, the thing we all had in common, myself, Ru, and Todrick, is we realized that white people, specifically gay white men in this situation, don't like opinionated black people. They have a hard time being told what to do from a black person, especially when you are not fitting into the fetishized ideal. For them, if you're not being hypermasculine, a piece of meat essentially, then you have no use. THR also asked JBC what he thought about the new judging panel. He said this, I think there are a lot of other choices out there in Canada that would have been much more appropriate. There's a lot of Indigenous talent that has gone unrecognized, a lot of trans and non-binary talent, people of color beyond black people. There's West Indians. I think Priyanka would have been a brilliant choice to have replaced me on the judging panel. But, he says, that's what happens when it's only white, cisgender people behind the scenes making the decisions. Wow, wow, wow. World of Wonder, wow. THR says that in its statement, Crave said, in light of the social media attacks and bullying that Jeffrey experienced during season 1, we put measures in place to mitigate this for future seasons. This includes a dedicated social media consultant to work with Crave to continue monitoring conversations in real time, which thank God they're doing that, but sounds like too little too late to me. This is perhaps the craziest behind the scenes tell-all I think that we have ever heard from the Drag Race franchise. I mean, this is really serious stuff. Ilona being told not to talk about her trans identity, and JBC saying that there was literally not another black person on set to speak up for him and provide perspective for him, for example, in the editing room. That's huge. The important takeaway here being that without representation present to speak up for those communities, stereotypes can be played on and bias may not be seen. On top of all of that, it can be difficult or impossible for fans watching this show to discern what is and isn't real when watching reality TV. A prime example being the critique Jeffrey talked about that was literally cut in half, made to make him sound condescending instead of welcoming and warming. It's just so obvious in retrospect that the producers wanted Jeffrey to be the Simon Cowell or Santino of the panel, and the franchise's focus on his negative critiques had even me fooled. But as always, let me know what you think. What should Canada's Drag Race do moving forward to prevent situations like this from occurring in the future? And do you think the steps that they claim to have taken in this article are enough? Let me know down in the comments below. As for JBC, we know he's moved on to bigger and better things. He's currently starring as an openly queer character on a Disney show. So if you want to catch up with him, you can see him there playing Doogie Kamealoha, MD. As always, I want to say thanks to you for watching this video and give a special shout out to Lark, Angel, Adaluda, Cyrus, Felicia, Jared Rocks, JB, Joseph, Josh Marchand, JP in Dallas, Laura, Maxi Wow, Miss F. Neely, Rochambeau, Robert Reeves, Scooby Snacks, Sailor, Steven, Tom Jago, Tom Young, Topher, Triton, and Really, who were all supporting me at my Bussy Queen Collector tier. See y'all later. Love ya.